The information in this video is provided for informational and educational purposes only.
Welcome to Dose of DeAnn, where you'll get a little shot of what my life is like living with SMA. Recently, in a social media group that I'm in, there was a post that really has stuck with me, and I wanted to share it with you today and tell you my thoughts and perspectives on it. It's in a closed group, so I'm not going to share the name or the actual details. But basically, a family with a young child, their child just got a feeding tube. And they don't feel comfortable eating in front of the child, so they kind of go off in secret and eat and kind of take shifts eating. And it really is putting a strain on their family. I wanted to discuss why I don't think you guys should feel bad about eating in front of someone with the feeding tube. And I'm also going to show you a few things that I've done to make other people comfortable with my feeding tube. So I hope you'll join me after this quick message from our sponsors.
This vlog was made possible by a sponsorship from Avexis, a clinical stage gene therapy company relentlessly focused on bringing gene therapy out of the lab and into the clinical setting for patients and families devastated by rare and life-threatening neurological genetic diseases. To understand how gene therapy is changing the way we see genetic diseases, check out exploregenetherapy.com, www.exploregenetherapy.com. Explore Gene Therapy is a resource for learning more about gene therapy, including its history and how it is being studied. Visit www.exploregenetherapy.com.
I was a little bit older when I got my feeding tube, but my parents felt the same way. My mom actually told me that she felt bad eating in front of me, and I had to tell her that not to because I actually enjoy seeing other people enjoy themselves. And if they go off and eat on their own or don't have a mealtime just because of me, that made me feel even more excluded. I would rather be part of a mealtime even if I'm not able to eat food, just because there's a whole social aspect to it, kind of a how's your day going, what did you do today aspect. And then with events and holidays and social gatherings, there's always an element of food, and I want to be comfortable around food just so I can partake in the social aspect of it. I really do think it bothers the other people more than it does us, because frankly there's a lot of things that I can't do, but I enjoy anyway, like watching sports and things like that. Let's face it, sometimes the food just smells divine, and that's satisfaction enough. I don't even need to eat it if it just smells good. But there are ways to make mealtimes more inclusive for those of us who can't eat, and especially the younger kids. There's a fun game that I remember my niece is really liking. It's called Family Time Fun Beginner Dinner Games. And it comes in this tin and it has cards on it with different activities that you can do during dinner. I do believe some of them relate to food, but maybe you can have other family members get those cards, or you can take some cards out if they're not appropriate. But a couple of games that I remember my nieces really liked is What's in the Oven Mitt. Someone would take something and stick it in the oven mitt, and then the next person had to kind of guess what it was. And then another oven mitt game was you put several objects in the oven mitt and someone draws it out. And let's say it's a marble, but the person has to make up some elaborate story about what it is, and it's not actually a marble. Maybe it's actually a fairy's magical crystal ball or something like that. So that's kind of fun and creative, and it's a way to be included during mealtime. I wanted to show you a few ways that I also made people more comfortable with me having a feeding tube. I know my nieces were relatively young when I got a feeding tube, and so they were kind of like, oh, what is that? But as I did certain things to kind of make them comfortable with it. They really got used to it, and it's no big deal for them. So I'm going to show you that. Come join me in the kitchen. We're just getting set up to do my feeding tube, and this is really cool. It's a bar that my dad made that attaches right to my wheelchair. It's made out of an old tent pole, but that way I can be mobile when my feeding tube is going. And everybody's process is a little bit different, so don't worry if mine is completely different than yours. I'm sure it is. So we're going to get a few things set up and I'll be right back. This is my extension tube. It actually connects to the Mickey button that's on my tummy, but you don't need to see my tummy, so we just did that part. I always do a water flush before and after the feeding tube formula, and one thing I did to make my nieces when they were young more okay with it is do a little sound effects when we ran the water in. So when my mom or my PCA would do the water, I would just make noises like glug, 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 and then I would go ah when it was empty. And so that would just kind of make them giggle a little bit, and they actually wanted to know if they could push the water in. And I'd let them because it's a pretty simple process. I don't have a pump or anything, so I do the gravity fed bags, and I do a bolus feeding, which means just kind of all at once. But I call the formula goop, and that makes it a little more fun too, I guess. I know some people call it steak and potatoes, or just make up a name for it other than formula. And then we just make sure the tube is wrapped up so I don't run it over, and I'm good to go and join whatever else anybody is doing. So once my feeding tube is done, we always fold it up to run the last little bit through. And another thing that makes it kind of fun is that it doesn't usually go all the way through. So with my nieces, we would make bets on where it would stop. So that kind of makes it a little bit more fun too. And today it stopped about 3 inches. So I don't know who would have won that one. Is there anything you guys have done to make people more comfortable around your feeding tube? Or do you agree with me to be included during meal times? I want to hear what you guys have to say. Please leave your comments in the forums or on our YouTube channel and let me know. Until next time, bye for now.